This episode is all about the Ultimate Garage, and very soon we'll find out what is in Spike Feresten's Ultimate Porsche Garage. But have you ever thought about what your Ultimate Garage would look like? I often think about this, and honestly, I probably spend too much time thinking about my dream garage. I mean, would it be too wide, too deep, but high enough to have 4 lifts so I could have 8 cars in there? And then do I need to make it 10 feet deeper so I can put all my lawn equipment and all that junk back there as well? Or do I go with a classic red barn kind of look? Or do I do something kind of modern? Or do I do something that matches the house? I don't know. I go down these rabbit trails all the time. But I can tell you that no matter how imaginative my dream garage is, it is nowhere near as impressive as any of the garages I see at metrongarage.com. So if you really want to be inspired and you want to have some garage envy, just go to metrongarage.com and check it out. Hey, it's Greg Stanley. If you're listening to this podcast, you know I love everything automotive. This passion has expanded to include being a car specialist consultant for RM Sotheby's. So if you need assistance buying or consigning a collector car at any one of our online or live auctions, including Scottsdale, Amelia Island, or Monterey, you can reach one of our car specialists at rmsotheby's.com, or you can email me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com.
This is the Collector Car Podcast, the home for the auto enthusiast. Join Greg Stanley as he applies over 25 years of insights and analytical experience to the collector car market. He will interview the experts and throw in some fun stuff as well.
Hey, it's Greg Stanley. Welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. I've got a really fun guest today, Spike Feresten. Spike, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and could you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Spike's Car Radio. We are a entertainment and cars and comedy podcast that tries to replicate our cars and coffee or Sunday, cars and coffee conversation on the porch at the Malibu Kitchen. So what you hear in the show is generally what you may have seen us chatting about the years prior before there was a podcast, my friends and I. So now we like to leave it NPC'd open for the listeners at home.
Yeah, it's really great. I really do enjoy it. And you guys really dig into stuff. And Zuckerman's hilarious. You guys are, I don't know, your chemistry's great because you both seem like really great guys, but then you kind of fight like a married couple.
Yeah, we're old friends.
Yeah.
We're old friends, and we're friends long before this. And we're right around the same age. We're very different humans. I'm not a criminal like he is, and or a predator, and I'm trying to teach him how to be human.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But we both love Porsches, which makes it a lot of fun. We're both crazy about cars, especially Porsches, and we share cars a lot, and that is what really keeps us together, is that love of old cars.
Right, yeah, and I was listening to, I guess it was last week's episode, and you were kind of recounting how you kind of, quote-unquote, got away from the police, and you felt so guilty about it, and he was basically telling you, get over it.
Yes. I had pulled over, and the police overshot the street where I pulled over, and then I thought, well, there's a plausible deniability here. It looks like they weren't pulling me over, so why am I sitting here waiting for them? I'll just continue on. Well, not the same way home I was going, a different way.
Slightly different.
And then I was so thrilled when I got away that I called Zuckerman, and he said, he goes, do me a favor. When they find you and they start beating you with their billy clubs, call me so I can listen. Listen to them beat you. That's Zuckerman. He wasn't joking either.
Right, yeah. True friends right there.
A good friend. I would do the same for him.
Now, we'll have to say you guys are a big influence on my second car purchase. I had not my second, but I had an old 66 Mustang convertible I loved, restored, and I just wanted something different. And I decided to get the opposite of a 66 Mustang convertible and got a 99 911. So it's my first 911.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And listening to you guys was a big thing about it. It was more about how when Jerry was on the show one time, he talked about why he liked 911 so much. And the way he put it so succinctly, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
What did he say? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was basically, well, the engine's in the back, so you don't have the big iron block on the front that makes the steering heavy, so the steering's light. There's no engine, so you can see either corner of the fender, so you have a great view. There's no dry shafts that you lose power and responsiveness because, everything's right there at the rear wheels, rear-wheel driven. I mean, everything he said was just like, I never thought about it that way. So.
Yeah, he really sold you on the car.
Yeah. I don't know if he sold me on a 99, but when I was shopping, that was about what I could afford. So, and I really do love it.
It's probably one of the most common comments I get from folks who come up to say hi is, you're responsible. Your podcast and you are responsible for me buying a Porsche, and I still haven't figured out how to make money on that transaction because I know I'm selling a lot of cars, but I'm always happy when, I can pass that along to folks because it's really David Letterman who did that for me, who's, saw me driving a Maserati bi-turbo when I was writing for his show, and he said, you don't know it, but you're a Porsche guy, and I was a little offended by that. I thought that's not the type of human I want to be. I don't want to. I had only, gleaned what I knew about Porsches from, the bad guy in movies, the jerk, the country club, idiot. And he said, no, it's not that. That's a movie thing. It's about a singular driving experience that you will like a go-kart with nothing extra. And he put me behind the wheel of I think it was an 89, and I went, now I kind of get it.
Right.
So, I'm happy when I can open someone's eyes to that driving experience. You can get by everything you thought you knew about them and, get in something that, forget about the money and what it's worth, just delivers some happiness to you, on a drive. And
right.
Porsche has enough variability in what they've been doing since the 40s to, they're mostly affordable all over the place, right?
Right.
You can find a car that's close to affordable these days. My 74 that I bought, my first one, I remember it was $6,430, which was still a lot of money. But,
right.
It was a mess. It was a wreck of a 74, the wrong year and the wrong color, sepia brown, with 200,000 miles, and I've never been happier. I got behind the wheel of it and I went, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever owned. And I still feel that way.
You've talked about it often on your show. What's your taproot car?
That car.
Is it that car? Okay. Yep.
Oh, yeah. The taproot is the first car that you can afford and buy that sets off a collection. And it may not even be a car that you keep. Like I said, that car was a piece of junk. But it worked, and I would drive it from New York out to Long Island. You could rent a house out there in the winter because it wasn't in season for next to nothing. So, we would drive it back and forth to Long Island. I would drive it to the like down Wall Street area on the weekends. I would drive around New York City in it, and more often than not, it worked. But by the time I got it out to L.A. and I needed air conditioning and pieces were falling off, and then Jerry saw it. I didn't know Seinfeld at the time, but he was my boss now. I was writing for Seinfeld, and he said, that is the right idea, but the wrong example.
You're getting close.
He said, he goes, I love the car, and I love that you're into it, but you're going to die in that thing. Look, and we're underneath it, and there was, the suspension was falling apart. It was a wreck. So, I saved up my money and bought a Boxster. That was my first move, my very first new car that I'd been planning to buy since the Letterman days when I saw the photo, and now I had a little money to do it. And then shortly after, toward the end of the Seinfeld run, I bought a 73 911T, and then I was like home free. That car just delivered everything that the 74 couldn't deliver just because of its condition.
Right. Yeah.
I've been in love with those 911s. That's my personal kind of connection and story with those. And, the other thing is just I feel most comfortable behind the wheel of a 911.
Because obviously you were influenced by Letterman and Seinfeld. How do your tastes differ? Because I know Seinfeld's, big Porsche guy, but how do your tastes differ than those two guys?
I don't know. I mean, I always look at, and I was just shooting with Jay Leno yesterday and seeing his collection again and thinking about all of that. Because we were talking about Jay's cars and his beautiful collection versus Jerry's, which is very curated and Porsche-centric. And then Dave's, I happened to just chat with Dave last week, but after I hung up, I didn't really get to what I wanted to talk to him about, which was, of the cars that he collected back when I was writing for him in the 90s, what did he still have, and what was he still into? Because at the time he had not just, 911s and a 356. He had a Ferrari Dino, and he inspired me to buy a Ferrari Dino back in the day, which I had for many years. He also had a bunch of Austin Healey's, a bunch of them. He was really into the Austin Healey brand. And then, you look at Jerry, and we all know what he has, but then he likes to play in the Volkswagen sandbox, and then he's got an MGB. He's got some funny little cars, that he loves just as much as kind of the big dog cars. And I think when I look at what I like, I like old Ferraris. I love new Ferraris. I've just never bought a new Ferrari.
Right.
I'm an old Ferrari guy. I like old Land Rovers because for me that reminds me of Massachusetts and, driving, 4x4s on the beach and chasing bluefish. There's room in my collection for an American car. I haven't figured out what that's going to be yet, but I wanted something that reminded me of high school and, my blue-collar hometown of West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which was all American cars. So, I don't know. You'd have to really ask them that question, what kind of makes them tick. But they are very, they are different. Everybody has a different thing that they're doing, and I don't think anybody's quite sure of what it is. It's hard to nail down, right? You just start collecting stuff and buying and selling, and it has a life of its own.
I'm sure you don't know this, but if you go back a number of episodes ago, I actually interviewed Brent Fagan, who sold Jerry one of his very first Porsches. It was a blue Speedster in the early 90s or late mid-90s out of Kansas City. So I actually interviewed him.
Yeah,
and I realized, you remember the car?
One had a red interior and one had a tan kind of baseball glove interior. He had two of them at the same time. They were mice and blue, right?
Yes, yeah. And when I interviewed him at the time, I didn't realize that he had sold Jerry his car. So I was like, that's kind of neat. So a local guy.
Those are two beautiful Speedsters, one which was pristine and the other had been beaten up a lot and crashed a lot and then had been crashed on the Seinfeld lot by a stagehand backing up a forklift. So it continued its crashy life. And I think both of those cars, I know he sold both of those cars, and one of the two ended up at our Malibu Kitchen Cars and Coffee about a month ago. I saw it parked right out front, and the guy came up and he said, "This is Jerry's former car."
Oh, wow. Okay. It would have been the nicer of the two, because I do recall he had it totally restored. So it would have been the nicer of the two. Yeah, that's really cool. So if you could pick any one car out of either Jerry's collection or Jay's, not counting the F1, because I know you just did a massive drive in that.
Yeah. Why can I count that? I don't understand.
Well, because everybody already knows that answer.
They do?
Well,
to start with Jerry's, I always say to him, look, man, when you die, you're going to leave me a car. He goes, well, what kind of great conversation? Let's light a cigar up. He loves to talk, and it's really hard to zero in on that car, for a lot of reasons. And not that he's going to leave me a car, but you go, well, that would be way too much money to ask from him. But the cars I have a personal connection to in his collection are some of the cars I found or helped find for him. Steve McQueen's 917, I feel a personal connection to that car. There was a Carrera GT 356 that had been raced in Africa that he and I found in my neighborhood in Hollywood, one of 20 ever made, and it was sitting in an unrestored state with a box full of trophies in the front seat.
Wow.
Given to the grandson of the previous owner who didn't quite know what it was, and Jerry and I saw it one day in the front yard and knocked on the door, and this cute girl in jean shorts comes out, and we go, hi. When we went, whose is that? She goes, oh, that's my boyfriend's, and we got his number, and eventually Jerry bought the car and restored it. It's an incredibly rare car to find just sitting in a front yard. That car I feel a strong connection to. He has, there's so much. It's so deep, and I've driven so much of it. I would have said maybe the RSR IROC car, the International Race of Champions 74 RSR, but he sold that car. So, I'd go with one of those. It'd have to be something that kind of reminded me of, how much fun we had driving, and so that would eliminate the 917. So I'd probably have to say, Yeah, it would be something like that, or even just he's got a beautiful 911 RS lightweight, something like that.
Okay.
And then Jay, yeah, the McLaren. I want Jay's McLaren. I'm sorry. that was super fun, and I've not experienced a car like that. It reminded me of the Carrera GT in that it was this mechanical analog experience in a car that looks like a modern day, supercar and performs like it. Yet you've got something to do while you're driving it. And, the Carrera GT, boy, a bargain by comparison to that McLaren, which is, I don't know, 24, 25 mil right now.
A lot, for sure. Now,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What about if you have 2 cars from Jay's collection?
2 from Jay's?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know how vast his collection is? Having just seen his 73 911E that he restored that's up on Jay Leno's Garage and his YouTube site right now, I just saw that up close, sepia brown with tan, which I had before. And by the way, I did not like it. Now I like it. I saw that car, geez, I don't know. And then he's got 2 beautiful Miura just sitting there.
And didn't he wreck one by bumping it into the other one?
Yeah, yeah. Let me just go back through my head and think of the things I just saw walking down that aisle. He had a Bronco that had a GT 500 motor that Ford just made for him. He's got some crazy stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm a Porsche guy, so I would just go with the 911E. I would just go, he's talked about that car a lot. He loves it, and that would be the one.
Okay. No, that's fair. All right. Well, that sounds great. Well, what I've done is I want to build the ultimate Porsche garage, and I want your input because you're the Porsche expert. So what I did is I kind of polled all the social media channels to find out, what would folks put in this ultimate garage. So I kind of went through all the results.
Okay.
And I kind of whittled it down to the top 10.
Let me give you a little personal perspective on this, because once I was asked to do this list.
Sure.
The top 10 cars, and Jerry and I were on the phone for weeks. We could not get the list below 25. It was agonizing. It was so hard to do. So the odds that you nailed it, because it's just too limiting. Porsche is too great to be contained in a 10. It needs to be like a top 30. But go ahead, give it a shot.
Well, I know I didn't nail it because I got some little bit different stuff in here. So let me just go down the list. No one can nail it. So, all right. We'll start with that premise, but you can veto a car out of this. All right, okay. So the first one is a 1995 911 Carrera RS 3.8 Touring.
Okay, 1995, a 1995 993 Carrera RS Touring.
Yes, the 3.8.
I would keep that car on there for sure.
All right, we'll keep that one. I did pull some Hagerty trims. All right, average value is $305,000, and in the last 5 years, it's actually up 15%. So there you go.
Yeah, those are great.
Second one's a little tougher one to value. An Emery 356 Outlaw with the 4-liter.
An Emery 356 Outlaw?
With the 4-cylinder.
Well, I love Ron, and I love his cars, but what are we talking about Outlaws? You're including those in this?
in my ultimate garage, I am. But you can veto. You can kick them out.
I would have to, look, I love Rod, and I want to have him build me a race car, but I can't put him on the top 10 list because he's a hot rodder, and he belongs on a hot rodder list, not on a top 10 list from Porsches.
Well, it's an ultimate garage list.
Ultimate garage?
Like the 10 cars you want in your Porsche garage. Would that not be one of them? I guess it wouldn't be.
No, it is. It's something I currently want. Okay. But you're saying I'm gonna put that on cast that one aside for right now.
Okay. All right. We'll cast that one aside. All right. 1989 930 Turbo.
No. It's a great. By the way, it's an incredible car, but no.
How about the turbo look, but not the turbo? The M491. No.
For me, right. I would drop a GT2 RS in that position. That to me is the ultimate turbo.
All right, that's fair. All right.
But again, I mean, this is like Sophie's Choice. You're making me crazy.
So the average value of the 930 is $99,000. It's down 31% in the last 5 years. So they've been taking a hit in the market.
Yeah, yeah. But it's important to note too. I mean, maybe I don't know. Your podcast seems to be about money. I don't think that way. I think about driving experience and just enjoyment delivered. And the cars you're mentioning do deliver all of that. But if you're going for a top 10 garage, I'm going to have to hold you to a higher standard. Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you got?
I appreciate that. And it's just more about the market trends, how they doing in the market. So
I see.
All right.
Okay.
55 Porsche 550 RS Spider.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew.
Sure.
Can't have three
You're good.
vetoes in a row. All right. How about 2019 GT3 RS Touring?
2019 GT3 RS Touring. GT3 Touring, you mean?
Yeah, Touring. Sorry. Touring.
No.
Man.
The 911R has got it beat.
I had that in there earlier. All right, the 911R has it beat. Okay.
Yeah, it does. It just barely though. I mean, it's thin. They slice the cheese very thin, but at the end of the day, the 911R just has a tiny edge on it. More collectible, a greater drive, and a unique experience.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I was going back and forth between those two. All right. 58 Speedster.
Yep.
How about, does it matter? Carrera, not Carrera?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, if money is no object, you want a 4-cam engine would be the way to go, for sure.
Yep. Okay. You have one of those, correct?
Yeah, I have one with a Wilhoit motor in it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that put, 40, 50 extra horsepower?
It's 125 horsepower, and the rest of it is restored kind of exactly as it would have come out of the factory. So I kept drum brakes and everything else on it, so it feels like a stock 58 Speedster that just goes fast. But it stops and steers just like it did when it came out of the factory.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right, for the next one, I kind of wanted to keep it to a pure 911 in my book, the 67 911S.
Terrific car, absolutely, but it would not be in my garage.
Not in your garage, okay.
No. I found my top 10 list, and I'm gonna give you mine when we're done.
Sure. All right.
You can eliminate my cars.
The one I really wanted was one that was at the Taj Mahal Garage auction a few years ago. I don't know if did you look at that auction at all the Porsche stuff?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, they had a silver one there with like 4,000 miles and documentation back to the guy like writing letters to the factory wanting a 901 and then delays in it with a 911S, and that was the car. And it had like reams of documentation on it. So. And
that was a 67?
67. If I had to get super specific.
Yeah, if you could get that car for sure. Yeah, definitely put it in your garage.
All right, how about a 73 RS 2.7?
Yep.
All right.
Terrific car.
All right, two more. Getting into the newer stuff, Carrera GT.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, that was an easy one.
There's nothing like that Porsche sells. Everybody should have one.
That's got the V10, correct?
Yeah, they're just so rewarding. They're difficult to learn to get around, but there's nothing like it out there. Period. I think except for the McLaren of Jay Leno that I've been in. That I can compare it to. Those are the two cars where you just go, wow, that's a unique driving experience. I think Carrera GTs are going to zoom just like McLarens in value.
Yeah, and actually, just to talk about money a little bit, they're up 30% the last 3 years, so they are definitely taking off.
When I was talking to Jay, I think he bought his McLaren somewhere there, in that, Carrera GT money today, what those are worth, somewhere between 6 and 8. So, and then now look where they went, right? So that might be the car to keep an eye on.
Right. Yep. I totally agree with that. And then the last one is the 918 Weissach.
Jerry would agree with you for sure. Yeah.
but you would not.
I might not. No, I love that car. I mean, again, it's like I don't hate any of these. Everything you've said, I love them. But if you're talking about a top 10, I might not make that choice. But let me take you through mine, all right?
I want to hear it. Absolutely.
Okay. This is a list I really sweated bullets over, and it's still, I'm rewriting it as I'm looking at it. I found it online, and I'm hoping this is the same one. All right. So number 10 would be a 1979 11S, 2.2-liter model. For me, this was the ultimate early 911, light, rev-happy, sure-footed and fun. I had one in Conda Green. I miss it every day. It was an amazing car. I drove it more than any other 911, early 911 that I had. And I loved the 73 RS, but the 70S has it beat for me. That was mine. Number 9, I picked a 2007 997 GT3 RS. So it's a manual gearbox, 0 to 60, 4 seconds. I happened to have one at the time, and I loved it, and I miss it. I would plug in any GT3 RS variant that you like and cotton to. I would put it in that spot, and I like them. Number 8 is 914.6 GT, the racing version of the 914.6.
Yep.
These, I've been lucky enough to drive one. I've been lucky enough to chase cars through canyons, 911s. Nothing can catch up with this thing. A properly sorted 914.6 GT turns on rails like a Boxster, like a vintage Boxster, and it's just an incredible car that not a lot of people know about. I know the looks are polarizing. I love it. I think it's great. 7, you have, which is the 993 RS.
Yep.
We're on the same page there. You don't have my choice number 6, the 908.3 open cockpit Porsche race car.
I almost had the 906 GTS, but then I thought, I don't know about that. All right, so the 908.
The 908.3, and I wrote a little thing under here. It says is like having your head welded to the hood of a flat 8 3-liter engine. And Joe Siffert, Brian Redmond famously won the 1970 Targa Florio in it. I think Jerry has the Gulf Blue car. You can, in a lot of cases, get license plates for these things and drive them on the road if you want. So that also makes me like it. Like, I like race cars that look like this. I would, if I owned the car, I'd put a license plate on it, and I would drive it to Cars and Coffee. Number 5, the Carrera GT, 5.5-liter V10. There it is, originally destined for Formula One racing. Now you can have it on the street, 3,000 pounds, 605 horsepower. I love them. Just make sure that your rear shocks are properly sorted. Otherwise, you might crash.
Might bounce the wrong way, right.
Yeah, you might bounce the wrong way. 58 Speedster, we're there too.
Yep.
Here I wrote, I like them more than my multi-million-dollar 550. Yeah, I do. I've driven 550s. To me, 356s and the 58 Speedster is a better driving experience. It's not worth anywhere near what they're worth, but it's a better driving experience. Number 3, I put my favorite car, the 74 IROC RSR. I find this car, just the steering, everything that 73 911 RS Touring delivers, this does better and lighter, and there's next to nothing in the interior. I think these cars are incredible. Incredibly fun on the track and easy to drive, and just obscenely illegal feeling on the street,
Right.
which is exactly the type of experience I like. Number 2, Steve McQueen's 917. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
220 miles an hour and a 917. You got to have a 917 in that garage, right?
How many times has Jerry driven that car?
He takes them to the track. We take it around the track.
Okay.
It gets
All right.
driven. Yeah. What he hasn't done, but I think Bruce Canepa did, is he put a license plate on it and driven it around. Because, again, not a lot of people know this. You can put that on the road, and that's, to me, that's where all the fun is. It's a little, like the McLaren, you're a little inside, something that could lock you in and burn you to death. But once you get past that, it's quite an easy car to drive. Just don't miss the shift. The number 1 car, which I didn't have to think at all about this, but the number 1 car that I put in my top 10 is the birth year, my birth year, 1964, and the Porsche 901 birth year. Kind of 63, but they call it a 64 901. It would be the very first 911, the beginning of the 50-plus year legacy of 911. That's the car I would want, is a 64 901.
Wow.
I wouldn't care what color, just the beginning, the car that started it all as far as 911. So now that list is insane. That was insanely hard. And I'm pretty sure there were 20 more cars to jam in there. So if your listeners are going, you forgot this and that, you're right. I would definitely put a Rod Emery car in there. Absolutely. And the cars I took off your list, I would definitely put them in the hangar next door, because you're talking about great cars.
Let's say your top 25. Where does the 959 fall?
The 959 would be in there, but it wasn't really my generation. It's not really a car, and I've driven them. Here's my little issue with them. They're so technologically advanced for the 80s that when you're driving the new 911s, they feel primitive. So I haven't quite figured out how to enjoy that car. in the drives I've taken in them, I've never really enjoyed it because I've wanted the modern 911 more, and it's not exactly a vintage experience. So, I find what Bruce Kennep is doing with them really interesting, where he's goosing up the horsepower and turning them into kind of dragon racers. That might change my mind, that modification. But, it never really, it's not something I ever lusted over. I think a lot of that market was driven by the fact that you couldn't get them. And you'd hear the stories of the Bill Gates car stuck, at customs, U.S. Customs. But I don't know. It didn't make me crazy when I drove it.
Right. Okay. Now, of your collection you have, which one do you drive the most?
I've been driving the GT2 RS a lot. That's really one of my favorite cars ever that Porsche has produced. And then lately, a simple 992 Cabriolet. The new 911, this new run of 911s has really blown me away. Zuckerman and I had one that we shared, and then we got bored with it stupidly and pawned it off on one of his partners, one of his lawyers at his firm, which is a great place to get rid of cars, but we shouldn't have done it. So then I was doing a promotion with Porsche Drive and the new Porsche Drive app, and that's the app where you can rent 911s and, get on this kind of month-to-month lease program with them where you get a car delivered and switch them out every day if you want. And as part of that, I've been driving a 992 Carrera S, that Cabriolet, that I've been loving. It's the first time I've had a new 911 that was a drop top, and with the pandemic and everything going on, it's delivering a lot of relaxation in a tense time where I can throw the kids in the back and the wife in the passenger seat, and we can take a nice drive out to Malibu, and for 30 minutes, things feel kind of normal. So I'm very emotionally attached to that car. And I've also been lucky enough to have a couple of long highway drives out to Palm Springs and then out to Willow Springs the other day, where I got to know the car on the highway, which you know what that means. And, I just thought, boy, it's got a great sound. It's got a lot, for just a stock 911, just an incredible speed. So I don't know if I'm just getting old or this new 911 really is as thrilling as I think it is, but I'm very excited about where these 992s are going, and the introduction of the GT3, which is right around the corner.
Right, and I heard it's not going to be it's going to be naturally aspirated. Have you heard that?
Yes, yeah. Now it's floating, so it's funny. They follow the same pattern all the time. You see these cars in Germany, you see the spy shots, if you will, and then there's one day on Instagram or Facebook back in the day where suddenly they're in Colorado, up around Vail, the Continental Divide. And someone takes a picture and they send them to you, or it gets in and then 2 weeks later, they're going to be here in L.A., and just yesterday someone sent me the picture. Holy crap, I just saw this on Sunset Boulevard. So right now, as we speak, the GT3s, the prototypes, are here in L.A., and I tried to get Porsche to bring them to our Cars and Coffee, which is Sundays at the Malibu Country Mart, and they keep writing back with smiley face emojis and saying, no comment, no comment. So, I can't wait. I have heard that gigantic wing on the back is the wing we're going to get.
Wow,
That's part of the deal. That's exactly how it's going to look. There is no active arrow on it. I have from a good source, but it's going to be as it looks. So if you Google those spy shots, you're going to see that big wing.
Yeah, and that's the one that showed up in the Super Bowl commercial, and people were like, "Oh, there's a GT3 in the background with that big wing."
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. But in the later spy shots of going around the Nürburgring, you look at it and you go, "Well, that can't be real. That thing is gigantic. It's bigger than a GT2 RS wing." But nope, that's it. It's pretty badass. I mean, these 992s are really amazing. And for me, it's not just the driving performance, but it's the first 911 I've gotten in where my phone immediately starts talking to the infotainment system and there's no glitching going on. Everything's easy. Every knob is where I wanted it to be when I push. I haven't had to take out the manual to learn how to do anything. It just all works. It's really quite an accomplishment.
Well, for our listeners, stick around and I'll go over some of the numbers as far as what it would cost to put this Ultimate Garage together and have it in your own Ultimate Garage. It'd be a lot of money. But I do play a little game at the end called Keep, Cash, and Crush. But before I get to that, where can my listeners find you? Obviously on the podcast. I guess you're going to have a Jay Leno special coming up here soon?
Well, yeah, we took our Zagato 356 Porsche onto Jay's garage, and I don't know when they plan to air that, but Zuckerman and I went by there, and I drove one of Jay's cars, and he drove the Zagato. Spike's Car Radio, yeah, available everywhere where you get podcasts. You can find it anywhere, and I'm pretty present on Instagram, so if you ever have a question for me, you can follow me on Instagram and direct message me, and I try to get back to everybody.
Yeah, and I know you're a producer, correct? Are you producing any car shows currently?
No, the car thing, I work in comedy. the car thing, I have a very high visibility in the car world, but it's really just a hobby. You know, we do one podcast a week, and we do a lot of social media around cars. But my day-to-day is running my production company, and then, you know, outside of that, writing comedy. So writing scripts, and, you know, I'm writing a movie right now, and that's, you know, where I make my money.
Right. Okay. No, that's great. Well, like I said, I have a little game I like to play at the end here called Keep, Cash, and Crush. So I'm going to give you 3 cars, and ironically, not by accident, they're from your list. And you have to tell me which one you want to keep forever, which one you're going to cash in, and then which one you're going to send to the crusher.
Okay. This is a horrible game.
It is a horrible game.
You're going to ask me to crush a Porsche. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Well, if it makes you feel better, just think 1, 2, and 3. All right, so the 3 cars for Keep, Cash, and Crush, and like I was saying, you can kind of rank them as 1, 2, and 3. So if you don't want to crush one,
okay,
just be the one that comes in 3rd place. Obviously, you got to have the Carrera GT on there, 356 Speedster with the Carrera engine, and then a 74 RS. I know extremely mean, but if you had to keep one forever, cash one in, and then metaphorically crush one, what would they be?
This is a horrible game.
This is why I don't edit out the silence.
Keep, cash, or crush. I mean, I guess the smartest way to go would be to keep the 58 Speedster, right? Cash the 74 RSR, which may have appreciated as far as it's going to go, because that's going to be a $2.5 million car. Oh no, but then I'm crushing the Carrera GT. No, I would have to keep the 58 Speedster. Huh. Well, yeah, I'm getting rid of 2 cars. You're making me sell 2 cars.
I know.
That's the problem here. All right. Then, I mean, the Carrera GT I would keep, because that's really going to deliver fun driving experience, and it's going to appreciate like mad, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah,
right?
I agree.
I would cash. Oh, this is horrible where I'm going with this. I would cash the RSR, because that's 7 figures. That's a lot of money, and we love to make money. And
Right.
then I guess I would have to crush one of my favorite cars in the world, a Speedster. But
Okay.
there are more of them out there, and I could take some of the RSR money and buy another Speedster. So
Yeah.
there you go. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's really good. I like the fact you flipped it from you're going to keep it to you're going to crush it. So I like that.
Yeah. Well, there are. I mean, there are a lot of Speedsters out there, and you can get another one.
Yeah. All right. Well, awesome, Spike. I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us on the Collector Car Podcast.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Spike. That was really cool to have him kind of veto some of my cars that are in my top 10. Now, to be clear, that was for my Ultimate Garage, so kind of ones I would like to drive. And I do love the ones that he went over with us on his top 10. So I did want to kind of go over what the valuations look like on the top 10 for my Ultimate Garage, as well as some of the market trends, and kind of give you a total number as far as what it would cost to put these into your own Metron-designed Ultimate Garage. So here we go. I'm just going to kind of rattle through these pretty quick. So the 1995 Porsche 911 Carrera RS 3.8, average value $305,000. in the last year, it's actually down 16.5%. The last 5 years, it's up a total of 15%. So over 5 years, it's gained 15%, but the most recent year has actually gone down quite a bit. The Emery Outlaw, there are no real comps for this. I just know that to get one today, probably spec the way I would want it, it's about $500,000. The 1989 Porsche 930 Turbo, that's the one I mentioned earlier. Average value is $99,000. And this one's been hit pretty hard. 1 year decline is minus 16.7%. The 5 year is 30.6%. So it's been declining for 5 years, and it's still declining pretty hard right now. Now, if you were to not have the turbo, this is really fascinating. Instead, got the 1989 Porsche Turbo look. That option is the M491. So you have the flared fenders, and it looks like a turbo, but it doesn't have the turbo engine. Those have actually appreciated. The average value is about $55,000. In the last year, it's appreciated 2.7%. And in the last 5 years, it's appreciated 16.6%. Now, the 1955 Porsche 550 RS Spider, weren't a lot of comps on this. The last three have sold for an average value of $3.6 million. I don't have any trends on this one because there's just not that many that come to market. And then the 2019 Porsche GT3 RS is basically the sticker price of $188,000. 1958 Porsche 356 Speedster, the average value is $288,000. Over 5 years, they've been up 9.4%, but in the last year, they've actually declined 7.2%, so declining quite a bit. And then the 1967 911S, average value is $170,000. It's been up the last year, 1.4%, and then over the last 5 years, actually down 5.4%. The 1973 911 Carrera RS, 2.7, average value is $360,000, and unfortunately, it's been down double digits for the last year, 3 years, 5 years. So the last year is down 11.1%, and over the last 5 years, it's down 23.5%. The 2005 Carrera GT, this is one Spike thought would be going up, and it definitely has. The average value is $663,000. Over the last 5 years, it's gone up 12.3%, really going up strongly the last 3 years, 30.5%. And then the last 12 months, it's continued to climb at 1.3%. And one more, the Porsche 918 Spyder Weissach, average value is $1.35 mil. The non-Weissach is about $1.1 mil. So to have that Weissach package costs you $250,000. And this one is declining a little bit, down 25% over the last 5 years, down 2.9% recently. So the prices have slowed in their decline. So if you wanted to put all these together into your ultimate Porsche garage, all 10 of these cars, based on the average value, you would have to spend $7.55 million, which I do not have, which is why I only have one car in my ultimate garage right now. So as always, thanks for joining us, and I will talk to all of you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Collector Car Podcast. Don't forget to give us a nice rating on iTunes, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and everywhere else at the Collector Car Podcast.